plethora of administrators from around the country ready to make sure that we problem solve one issue. Because you know what? It's an item that we will all address. Josh Tobar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA, with a round table of awesome administrators. We will go around introducing each one of us, starting up there in Massachusetts. Our host, Dean Packard.
Hey everybody, Dean Packard, principal of Charlton Middle School, one of the co-founders of Unlock the Middle, and I'm excited to be here during office hours because this is where we dig in and do something that we all do sometime during the day. Kick it over to Don. Don. Hi, Don.
Hey, Don Epps from East Kansas, Chanute, Kansas, home of the Rocket Nation. So it's great to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Welcome aboard. Mich.
Hi, Mich Etzel, Columbus High School principal, home of the Mighty Cardinals.
Welcome aboard. Roz.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Roz, assistant principal of CMIT North Academy in PG County, Maryland.
Awesome. Welcome aboard again. And Amy.
Hey, everybody. Dr. Amy Matthews Pettis, which is why I go by AMP or Dr. AMP. It's a mouthful, my full name. Here in Central Texas, Director of Special Programs with Robinson ISD. Our Rockets never quit.
Good stuff. A lot of energy here tonight, Doc. Let's go.
Here we go. Question number 1. Mitch, who's the scariest one? Dracula or Frankenstein?
I'm going to say Frankenstein.
Why?
I think Dracula is cool. I think vampires are kind of cool. And I think Frankenstein can crush you with his hands. That's why.
Don.
Dracula, I'm scared of blood. I don't want any blood. Yeah, Dracula, definitely. No.
Dean.
Dracula only comes out at night, baby. Yeah, I don't like that.
Ms. Amp.
I would definitely say Dracula. Frankenstein's so big and bulky, he's kind of predictable and limited in what he can do as far as movement, whereas Dracula can fly through the night. No, thank you.
Roz.
Dracula, no. I don't want to get bit. No. No, thank you.
Survey says.
I love it. You are all right. The answer is Dracula. That's what scary dude out there.
I was wrong.
Oh, Mitch. We will put
Okay.
you part of the group right now. You're fine. Don't worry about it. All right. This one is not a yes or no or choose. What has been your favorite costume since you were little to right now that you wore during Halloween? Roz.
I would probably have to say maybe a ghost. I know it's typical and very traditional, but I had fun being a ghost.
Mitch.
So Winifred Sanford from Hocus Pocus. You can see the bats in the back. I had my Halloween party last Saturday, and I was Winifred, and it was amazing.
Don.
I say football player. I dressed up in my brother's football uniform. I was probably about 8 years old. He had a game the night before. He didn't wash it. It was nasty. Left a lasting memory.
Ew.
Amy.
Well, I'll go with as a child because it's so unique. I was a mailbox. That was my favorite costume. My dad did not believe that that's what I wanted to be, but the night before Halloween, he conferred and said, "You really want to be a mailbox?" I was like, "Yes," because I thought it was cool that I could say trick or treat and then open the drawer and they'd put the candy in and I'd close it and it'd slide down into my bag. So there you go. From childhood, my favorite costume was a mailbox.
Dean.
I'm going with the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. As a kid growing up, it was always easy and it was a great costume to have.
Mine was The Walking Dead. No face, all covered up, walking down the hallways as an assistant principal. There you go. That was my favorite one. Well, speaking of scary stuff, here goes our scary scenario. So you're listening to us on social media. I'm going to read it to you because you know what? If you're an administrator, I guarantee you sooner or later, you will face this horror situation. Cheer moms. Sorry, cheer moms. No offense. Here we go. A parent set up an appointment to see you about a cheerleading issue. You know it's been an ongoing issue with your cheer sponsor since she makes inappropriate comments about cheer members that you've had to address in the past. The mom tells you that her daughter is being targeted by the coach by making her a base when she's been a flyer all her time in cheer. She also tells you that her daughter needs to be in the front row, but since the sponsor doesn't like her, she's in the middle during football games. The mom says she has statements from other cheer members hearing her speak ill of her daughter. She wants the targeting stopped and her daughter in the front row since she's complied with all the coach's requirements. What do you do, Roz?
Oh, okay.
Short
Thanks
straw,
for
Roz.
calling on me first. All right. So I think I will have to start by dealing with the fact that the coach is saying mean things and nasty things to the cheerleaders, right? And I will have to, get some statements from cheerleaders, students, parents, so I can really get some evidence on that part first. And if it's something that I've been dealing with ongoing, then I already have some statements or information. And I've already warned the coach. I already had meetings with the coach about that. So I will focus more on that first and making sure that I'm giving the teacher or the coach, a consequence for, how she's talking to the cheerleaders and being mean and nasty, bullying basically our cheerleaders. That's number one. And then secondly, I would find out, what's the coach's process for determining who's the base, who's in the front, who's in the back, and making sure that it is fair, right? And making sure that the coach is being transparent and giving, effective criticism and feedback to the cheerleaders so that they know how to improve, and being transparent with the parents as well. Like, this is my rubric, these are my expectations, this is my process, and I'm clear and I'm open and honest about the process. So I will start there. That's what I have so far. But let me keep thinking. I would love to hear what everybody else is saying.
Amy.
Well, assuming I'm meeting with the parent one-on-one, the first thing I'm going to do is take off my glasses so I can be an effective listener. And I would really hear the parent out. I would hear the parent out absolutely completely.
Okay.
I would affirm her concerns, her emotions, her feelings. I love what you said, Roz, because behind the scenes, I would be making the exact same notes. I would also try to highlight the fact that her daughter must have some great skills. If she can be a base and a flyer, what great experiences that can help her determine what she wants to be when she gets on a college or high school team. That's great experience. I would also wonder about, is there a procedure where they rotate positions, whether it's a base or a flyer, or which row they're in at certain games? Those would be questions that I would tell the parent I plan to ask so I can know more about that. And then I would do exactly what you said, Roz. I would end up following up with the sponsor, having a pretty serious conversation, get statements. Assuming the mom brought some statements, I would get copies of those, and then visit with that cheer sponsor. But I would get all the facts first and then decide what action is appropriate. I was a cheerleading sponsor when I taught junior high, so I understand the pressure of it. But, speaking ill of your cheerleaders and being unprofessional and negative is never going to be okay, no matter what role you're serving.
Mich.
So, gosh, I'm third up to bat. So a lot of good stuff has already been said. But again, investigating and seeing, making sure that you give due process. You collect those statements from the kids, but you have to collect the statement from the sponsor. And so collect that statement, make a determination, because if there's not positive language and positive communication between a sponsor and a kid, just like a teacher and a kid, that's not tolerated. There's got to be respect and positive communication going both ways. So that is going to be something that's going to be top priority. But I will also say, so this actually came up with one of my cheer moms this summer, and the girl wanted to be a flyer and she wanted to be in the middle. And it was assumed that through seniority, you get to earn, like if you're a junior or you're a senior, you earn that spot. And so when we met, I just was very clear. I said, listen, I've been a coach myself. And so seniority doesn't earn the setter position. Seniority doesn't earn the libero position. You have a system in place to evaluate. Once you evaluate, then you're placed in those positions based on skill. And then you can't forget, it is about team. And it is not about me. So this is our volleyball. By the way, y'all, our volleyball team is ranked number 3 right now. Football team is ranked number 6. So I just had to give a shout out to our mighty Cardinals. But more than anything, the positive language is a non-negotiable. And so that has to be handled. But as far as earning a position because of seniority and what you feel the child deserves, that is something that is determined by the coach, and they have to have an evaluation system in place. And I will support the coach in that.
Great point.
Don.
Well, first off, the comment from Tim, Teachers on Fire, rock star, by the way. You haven't heard me speaking of all that. I'm trying to do a service society, okay? It's not you have to. But anyway, the insight, administrators will be taking notes on the insight from the first 3 people that contributed to this. I mean, you guys did amazing. I add a little, maybe add to it would be, from my experiences, no school sports. It's about the experience, about being a part of something bigger than yourself. It's about getting kids excited. It's more about the summer. I've done the high school and middle school. Try to build interest. I'd ask the parent, have you with the coach about this? And then meeting, you can serve as a mediator. I get in trouble sometimes when I start speaking for coaches or I start speaking for parents. And let's just cut the middle person out of it and get right to it. And let's be professional, let's be respectful, and the administrator would be there for support and be there to make sure both sides were. And then, like I said, you guys all said amazing things and right to the point. But I always feel it's important that the administrator doesn't solve all the problems necessarily all the time, just to make sure the right solution is found. And I think this help with the process and protocols.
Dean.
I find it interesting, and all of your perspectives are spot on, because there's no easy one way to handle this, because I think you've hit a lot of the salient points. But first and foremost, as a high school basketball coach for 12 years, I understand that coaching is probably the only thing that's autocratic in education. You got to believe in your coaches, that your coaches are doing the right thing, because you don't want to be micromanaging coaching. Okay, I get teaching. Bottom line, we're all here for experiences for kids, and we want those experiences to be the best possible. First thing I'd be doing is listening to the complaint, obviously the way it goes. I'd be talking to the coach, sitting down, saying, this is what's come your way. I got to get some evidence, as everybody else has said before. But having that active listening part is huge, because you got to play the middleman in the whole thing. Collection of evidence. I love the evaluation system. When I coached, I had a depth chart. People knew exactly where they were, why they were doing it, and how they were doing it. And I think one of the biggest things that I found very successful in my years of coaching is having a transparent program map of what my sport looks like and how you can become better at that. It's like good teaching. Every coach is a teacher at heart if you think about what you're doing. You want kids to be engaged. You want the learning to be fun. You want the outcomes. You want the day-to-day grind to take care of the outcomes. So again, as a coach, you have the ability to move people around, and there's no doubt about that. But in the end, parents do have a right to be able to have an opinion, but the coaches have the right to do their job to their level, and they know that they have to be supported as long as they're putting the best interest of kids in front of everything that they do. And we have to be able to back that. And remember, and I love that you said this, Don, this is about experiences, especially at the middle level, okay? No one's getting a college scholarship at middle school cheer. It's not happening. It's just not moms and dads or whoever is there. I know we're talking about moms here, but again, the process needs to be fun. It needs to be clear, succinct, and it's got to be good for kids. And I think that you can go anywhere in that type of conversation when that happens.
And I'd like to just add one thing to this. The majority of my career as an assistant principal for 13 years was in charge of athletics at the high school level. And it was crucial that at the start of each season, I was always at the meeting, the guidelines and rules meeting that is you have to do in Texas by UIL. You have to meet with the parents at the start of the season. And I always gave them these scenarios. And I would let them know, don't speak ill of your own team members. Don't speak ill of other, because I've seen parents, our own team parents, fight each other at away games. This is the hardest administrator out there, or soon to be administrator. Your biggest rock in your shoe will always be athletics. I can only tell you, that's my fear, always. Especially if you're in a big high school, or you're in a big middle school, when you have a large population out there and you're not in the stands controlling the noise, the oohs and the ahs and the taunting back and forth, In a heartbeat, in a blink of an eye, you have bench clearing. I've been in the middle of that in a baseball game with bats flying and parents attacking each other. So the best thing I could say to everybody out there is at the start of the season, make sure that you, the administrator, you, Mr. Administrator, preferably the principal, obviously, that you're there and you're setting the expectations of what you will tolerate and you will not tolerate. And when they see you there, and part two, you have to be visible there. You have to be visible at the games. And you cannot complain that you have to go to games. That's part of your contract. Whether you know it or not, is to be at those games to avoid the noise, because it's either a little pound of prevention or a huge mess you have to clear. Huge. And let me tell you, I've been a part of that. I've been where parents attack referees after a close last minute shot that I have to go to court and be a witness. So I'm letting you know out there, cheerleading falls with it and all this, because there's a lot of things that are tied with each other. So I would say my part, administration, be at the start of the season when you're meeting with the parents and let them know what your expectations, what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate, which is everything that we mentioned here tonight.
I'm going to tell you, I've gotten more calls about playing time than I have about delivery of lessons in a history class. So you think about it for a second, takes precedent over everything else. And you want to know something? I think the parents on the sidelines, they need something to do, and they live vicariously through their kids. I've always said, put a video on the parents instead of watching the game, and then play it back at a parent night. I hate to do that, but at the end of the day, you can sports brings out the best in us, and it brings out the worst in us. It just does. And again, Josh, I love that you said, set the example, make the expectations clear of what's going to happen in your school when it comes to dealing with kids and parents and communication, all that stuff around this whole circle. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
And to close, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really love the suggestion of scenarios, because that takes the personal out of it for the people that are listening, and it gives them an example of how not to behave. And they don't want to be the next scenario that you talk about. So I do love that idea of doing that at the very beginning. And then the transparency. Someone in our fabulous group here mentioned being transparent about your procedures and how decisions are made. I think that's also super important in the very, very beginning.
The only thing I would say is that when I banned 2 parents and they were escorted out of a football game by security, they said to me, one of them said, I never thought that what you were saying was true, Tobar, as they were walking out and they were banned. So in closing, we have a couple of minutes left. Some good advice for those sponsors, coaches that are either coming up with their seasons or you're seeing right now. So think real quick before it's your turn. We're going to start off with Mich. Some good advice for them.
I would say make sure there are 2 things. Make sure your handbook is extremely detailed and covers many scenarios, and that the parents are having to sign that in the parent meeting. And then also when communicating with kids, make sure you're doing it through Team App, Remind. I don't think that they should do anything through group texts, because it is setting them up for heartache.
Dean.
I'm going to say, number one, over communicate. Make sure that everything is completely transparent for everybody that's involved, and make sure you have a clear roadmap. It's very simple. It's like anything we do. Your roadmap has to be crystal clear of what your expectations are, and the outcomes will take care of themselves.
Don.
Establish your core values of your program, and that can be done in a collaborative fashion at the start of each season. But however you get to that point, preach those core values every single day. This is our why. This is why we're out here. This is why we're doing what we do, and make sure those core values are not only to the players, but to the parents and to the community.
Amy.
I would say, remember, it's we go, not ego. Check your ego at the door as the boss of a group, or being in charge of this or being in charge of that. Find your tribe and collaborate with people. No unilateral decision making. Always collaborate. So just remembering that it's we go, not ego. It's not about you. It's about the experience.
Love it.
Roz.
Ooh, ditto to everything that everyone has said. But also, I would just say, make sure the children are having fun. And make sure you're having fun as a coach, right? And it's about bringing the community together. When you go to those games, you see the moms, the grandmas, everyone's coming together. And we want to make sure that we're supporting the students and we're having fun. So anything that's messing up the fun, gotta go.
And in closing, body language coaches, body language during practice and during the game. I can tell you, body language. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll learn the hard way. Body language is crucial during practice, how you get along with the players, and during the game, how you treat the players. And that's all we got because now office hours are closed. Dean, don't forget to see us this Sunday. We have the flagship show, 7 p.m. Eastern. We have Mr. Gaskell coming back for round 2. So join us for the flagship show, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, part of the Fantastic Four. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great night, everybody. Closing out office hours. See you next week. See you Sunday night. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.